Okay, so it's starting to go live. I'll just double check to make sure that we are actually live. So give me 1 second just to make sure that it's streaming. Let's see here. Yep, we're good to go. Awesome. So this is Eric from Cosmos Spaces. Really happy to have you, Flavia, from the Coreum team today. Um, we actually met Michael from your team. Me and Tricky did last year at Consensus that was in Austin. So I've always been interested. Like I've had lots of friends throughout my crypto journey that have been like really into Ripple, and I know you guys have something to do when it comes to connecting kind of the Cosmos and Ripple. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you today, and I know that you guys are more than just that. So let everyone know what Quorum is up to, what you guys are building. Really excited to be here. How you doing?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Eric. To be short and brief, Coreum is an L1 purposely built for RWAs. I think our biggest differential is that we are adopting a lot of compliance frameworks that allow you to handle tokenization from a legal standpoint, from a distribution standpoint, and pretty much manage all these assets in cross-chain, right? So a big part of what we believe, as you mentioned, is interacting with other blockchains so that we uh, kind of battle out this siloed nature of the space. XRPL used to be a siloed chain. Now, through the Coreum bridge, assets can flow to any IBC blockchain, and this is just the first step, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say something to wrap that up. I really believe there's no point in tokenizing any real world asset without cross chain composability and liquidity. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that. So, yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. That they would just be stuck if you can't do cross-chain stuff with them. What would be the point of actually tokenizing them, right?
Hmm.
Awesome. So before we go deeper into Corium, let's get to know a little bit more about you. Could you tell us a little bit about your crypto journey? I'm sure, like for myself, I never saw myself working in Web3. I started in 2017, finally getting into crypto. Ethereum was the token that really got me into the space. But I never saw myself. I thought I'd just be a DGen user. I never knew that this was for me. So curious to know what your journey was like.
That's awesome. 2017, you definitely were early. Um, my journey is very simple. Honestly, I learned about crypto from the decentralization ethos. Like I used to work a lot in creative industries like music, and even in startups around the gaming industry, and it was pretty evident the direction everything was taking when it comes to IP rights and just the possibility to have a creator economy, right? Just like, for example, Omniflix is facilitating on the blockchain. So I really believed in that, and I really saw the 10-year vision. Like I don't think we're gonna get there from day to night. So I decided to become part of the space, right? And I was lucky enough to be one of the charter team members at Sologenic, which was our first project as a team that we deployed in 2021. Um, and from there, it's just been building. We had a vision early on to put the stock market in the blockchain while everyone was still, it was DeFi summer at that point. Everyone were talking about
The good
everything
days.
else, but yeah, I guess. But we were like laser focused on let's bring US stocks into the blockchain, and we haven't changed our vision since. But now we are in production mode. Now that we partner with a broker dealer, we really have the regulatory clarity to do so, and not just that. I do see the potential in, like I mentioned, other assets, anything from private credit to IP rights to real estate funds. It's just I could see that now we are in a very execution centric time. Yeah.
Yeah, man, having that regulatory clarity, I bet, is so huge because so many people are asking for that in different ways, when it comes to the space. So for you guys to have that clarity, I think really is really a good thing. It can really just allow you to just put your head down, to focus, to build, and not have to second guess if what we're doing will even be able to be used down the road, or if there's any uncertainty. I'm sure that that part is difficult. So it's awesome that you guys do have that clarity.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is black or white yet in terms of
Yet.
regulation. There's still some gray areas, but we are, you know, fortunate enough to navigate this with a partner like Texture Capital that they have been through the thick of it when it comes to, applying and obtaining the necessary licenses, and they even have an ATS, for example. Um, so yeah, no, excited, and at the same time, it's about balancing, right? Um, what can you do in the DeFi world and all of these possibilities to ultimately generate more yield or leverage these traditional assets for secondary markets and just more liquidity, right? But balancing that
Yeah.
out with the compliance and the regulation is the trick. Yeah.
That's awesome. So could you kind of give us a little journey? You said that what was the name of the company in 2021? Solgenix, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, so 2021 started in Sologenic. Our first project was a DEX, the Sologenic DEX on the XRP ledger. There was, to my knowledge, no other product launched in that blockchain at that point other than Ripple's own infrastructure. So yeah, it was exciting. It was an exciting time. Like XRPL is very particular in a sense that they have a lot of pre-built functionality, and a lot of that ethos is the reason why we build Coreum is to extend this functionality with smart contracts using WASM, with smart tokens, making more lightweight, uh, programmable assets. And yeah, Sologenic 2021. From there, we like I said, we were trying to get a license, even if it was offshore at that point. And then the SEC lawsuit with Ripple happened, and that, of course, that
Oh man.
affected the way we we had to navigate our things from like our mobile app to the way
Yeah.
we provide on ramping through third parties. Like we had to be very careful, and that, I think, that built character, and at the same time allowed us to focus on the tech. Right, we built out the
Yeah.
ecosystem. We launched a market index, a IDO launchpad tool, the wallet, and then we recently, well, not recently, like a year ago, we did like a whole revamp of the platform, just improving it, and the goal still remains the same, like I said, but on the journey, we saw the necessity to build a layer one. So that was Coreum in 2022, a lot of R&D, and 2023 March is when we launched the mainnet, which was,
Yeah.
launching a layer one is something that takes time, takes work, but I think you can see even the institutional players here attending this event, everyone wishes they had their own layer one because it's just more efficient, cost efficient, and yeah, I think that was the right call that we did.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go back to whenever the SEC had that thing going on with Ripple. Did it make you guys fearful? Like, everything we've been working on could go down the drain, or were just you guys so sure in what you were building and what Ripple kind of stood for that you knew that the outcome at the end would be probably a favorable one, like it's turned out to be?
Yeah, I think regardless of the outcome, our founders, and by extension ourselves, we have a very stoic vision towards when it comes to building these products and tokenization as a whole. So we really believed in it, regardless of the current, administration's stance on it the last
Yeah.
4 years. And now with the new one, the sentiment has shifted, of course, but
Oh yeah.
we remain on the same mission. I think to it, there was no definitely it was tricky to navigate accessibility and user onboarding, but the ultimate use case didn't change. It's still there. The value proposition was still there.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned WASM. So I wanted to ask you guys, how early on did you guys decide that you would be working with Cosmos, within the Cosmos ecosystem? We're Cosmos Spaces here, so we love to hear that story of how that's picked out and why that is that we feel like so many builders do like to build with Cosmos WASM with here with the Cosmos SDK.
Absolutely. So I cannot speak specifically about the tech decision, but
Yeah.
I can certainly say that, from what I've heard, right, it's very modular, and
Yeah.
it definitely came with a lot of tools out of the box that were needed, right? And that speaks about IBC, that it speaks about the consensus mechanism, being a proof of stake blockchain and using Tendermint that has been battle tested, I would say. And, no Cosmos chain has ever been hacked, or and up until this point, Coreum has never had any halts or downtime. So I think it's pretty robust infrastructure that allowed us to build modules on top. And we started with, I think it was 3 modules, basically around smart tokens, right? Adding a little bit of programmability to native assets. And then also deterministic fees, which is quite important, especially when you're dealing with institutions. They need to know how much you're going to spend uh, right off the bat, and being able to calculate that at the protocol level is a big
Yeah.
plus. Um, so yeah, I think overall Cosmos SDK, at the time, 2022, when we did the research, seemed like the obvious uh, contender when it comes to third generation, right? There were other options like Polkadot or Substrate. I think there are
Yeah.
like this layer zero infra, um, but Cosmos just seemed like the best one. Yeah.
Well, we love to hear that for sure. And we do see that whenever you look at, other companies building, you see Binance is built off Cosmos SDK and just so many different ones. So we don't always kind of see that support. So it's pretty cool to see. And you were mentioning earlier how much easier it is to do things when you're in L1. Um, was that vision for you guys initially? You set it off the ground floor. We're going to be at L1, or did you guys think about being maybe a DApp or something like that first, and then um, just like different teams I've talked to have at times gone that route where they thought they were going to just build off a chain and then decided like, you know what, this is not the best path because the things that we need haven't even been invented yet. So it's better we just take this in house and create it ourselves.
No, absolutely. We started as a, I mean, if you really want to take it back to the beginning, our founders' journey, they started on an exchange, and they pivoted to a decentralized exchange, an app,
Gotcha.
right? And from there, for tokenization, we did see the need to build a layer one. Um, at the same time, the XRPL now is adopting some of these features, like they are introducing, they're doing some research on smart programmability at the protocol level, and even WASM smart contracts, I believe. So my point is it necessary for every tokenization project to have its own layer one? Absolutely not. But it is a plus, is an advantage to be able to tailor the solutions specifically um, for the different asset classes that we're bringing uh, with that control, I guess, at the infrastructure level.
Gotcha. So just a little bit about myself. Obviously I work here at Cosmos Spaces, but I also work for a company called Babylon. We just recently went mainnet starting on April 10th. And when you talked about kind of the struggles of starting mainnet, I feel you, man. It's really hard sometimes, especially when you have community. Having certain expectations. I feel like building here in crypto is really really hard because you have like more eyes on you than I think a regular company would, and just the real world. Um, but when it comes to just that journey for you guys, you mentioned institutions. How do you how like just because for me Babylon we have a lot of institutional interest. How have you guys gone about getting the institutional interest in Quorum? Has it been pretty easy? Have you guys been searching out for it, or are they looking for you that they see you as a solution for what they need?
That's a good question. I think there are multiple verticals to onboard institutions, and one of them, the one that we are pushing, I guess, through Sologenic, is tokenization. So tokenization, as in putting any real world asset on the chain, the way it usually works for sourcing new partnerships, I think it goes use case first, right? Even if you're working with a custodian or a clearing broker, you need to have the use case, and specifically the distribution. That's what I see a lot of projects especially in the institutional space, is struggling with is that they have the assets, perhaps they have the asset issuers, but putting them on chain doesn't guarantee that people are going to buy it. And I think that's a point where I definitely see us having a strong strong community of users that have been with us since the beginning, and they see the value in this long term, right? So I think on that front we are pushing US equities first. So for Stologenic, we're working with Texture Capital on a marketplace for US stocks where you could potentially swap your stable coins into tokenized Tesla or any US publicly traded security. And that's kind of like version one. Version two, of course, we're aiming to push the envelope and allow for more DeFi capabilities for these traditional assets once they are on your digital wallet. And that involves collateralization, potentially trading them on a DEX, and so many other features that I think we're going to move as the regulatory frameworks evolve, like very closely, pushing it. So on that front, I think the institutional appetite, it comes from you having one, the product already working, and two, having like a user base that already battle tested the product. So I think that we do have an advantage there, having launched Sologenic in 2021. We've been operating since then. In crypto years, that is a long time, I believe.
Super long. Yeah, no,
A
that is
hundred
super
percent.
long.
And the other way, I think, is also on the infrastructure side. So a lot of chains, including Coreum, are onboarding institutions through validator nodes, right? So for example, we partner with BitGo, which is one of the largest qualified custodians, and they are running a node on Coreum and offering
Yeah.
direct staking to whoever has an account with them, like an institutional wallet. Now, on the payment side of things, that's another vertical that Coreum was built to tackle, right? And in that front, we did a kind of like a tool that allows you to adhere to ISO 222, but it also like it's not meant to just be designed for that standard. It's meant to kind of like serve as a testament that this blockchain can have messaging adapted to any other global standard that is needed to transact and settle on the blockchain. So we developed this as a client application so anyone can kind of install it in their own already backend, I guess. And it validates that the messaging, so the payment, for example, is compatible with ISO 222, and it's just richer data that this standard has. And then it also has the capability to handle RTGS, like the real-time gross settlement on the blockchain, which is what all banks are experimenting with. Of course, I think on this front, we're a bit early because a lot of banks that are engaging with blockchain, they are doing it so through private blockchains, right? And
Yeah.
then kind of the messaging on private blockchains and the settlement on public ones. So we're seeing this shift right now. But anyways, that's another vertical that we are also gathering institutional appetite.
Yeah. So just just seeing if you have an opinion on this. You don't have to to answer it, but like there's rumors out there that Ripple's looking to buy USDC. A lot of people feel like maybe you're talking about banks having these private blockchains. Maybe if Ripple's the owner of USDC, then the adoption of Ripple that everyone's been envisioning about them being the blockchain that banks use comes to life. Just do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think it's possible? Do you think that would help with y'all's journey a little bit? Yeah, just curious.
Yeah, I can certainly give an opinion, me as Fabio, on the
Yeah,
topic. Uh, so
appreciate that.
one thing I have to admire about Ripple is that their business model is always going for something that has been already well tested in the industry and works, right? So that we've seen it with their recent acquisitions, even the prime brokerage. And now with USDC, it's only obvious, right? Even then, when they
Yeah,
launched the stablecoin, it makes sense because banks are getting onboarded through stablecoins. That's the product
yeah,
that everyone is even even individuals, like everyone is on yield bearing stable coins, like as a inter as it as an asset that has low risk, high reward. Like it beats your savings account, right? Like if you hold a
Hmm.
stable coin um, that has underlying treasury yields and bonds. Um, so yeah, I believe that would certainly help them. Absolutely, USDC is an asset that is um, well adopted. Just to speak again from my perspective, like sometimes I've even used it for direct payments services I've gotten online, um, and it's the easiest. I guess it's the easiest one to move, other
Yeah.
than perhaps BTC, of course. But again, the fees is like USDC has very low fees. So
And
yeah,
BTC slower.
yeah. I mean, but you guys are doing something with BTC, aren't you?
Yeah, so Babylon, what they're doing is that you're able to stake your Bitcoin, which is used just through basic scripting language that Bitcoin has. Um, and you time lock it, and that way you stake it in that way by time locking it, and then you are able to secure different proof of stake chains. Some of the LSTs like Lombard are using us because typically you would have to, if you want to participate in like Bitcoin DeFi, you'd have to give up custody
Mhm.
of your Bitcoin and you get in return a wrapped asset. But now you're able to lock your Bitcoin natively on chain and then get that wrapped asset. So it's a more trusted way of doing it. We're looking to make it completely trustless on the LST front. But yeah, staking right now is trustless right now. No third party, no bridging. It's always your Bitcoin. You can unbond at any time. So it's pretty big. Like a lot of people are thinking that with this technology that Babylon has brought along, that they will kind of change what the Bitcoin DeFi landscape looks like.
Absolutely. No, I see the value in that 100%, and I think it's a just like tokenization is not a new thing, but it's kind of like generated buzz recently. I do believe that Bitcoin DeFi also has, and it has a lot of potential.
Yeah. No, it really does. So it's the rest of the year should look pretty exciting. But I want to keep talking a little bit more about Quorum. Like one of like y'all's big things is you call yourselves the super ledger. Um, Maybe tell us a little bit more about like what is it about yourselves that you see as being the super ledger? That's a big statement. So I'm sure that means you guys have to be sure about what you're doing to say that.
That is true. It's a bold statement, but I think it originated from, look, if I take a look at the website, it originated from the idea that we can tackle any end-to-end like A to C tokenization process specifically for capital markets, right? So
Yeah.
I think everyone is used to decentralized, like DTL technology is another term that people use to refer to blockchains, and it has to do with a ledger, right? That is the one that holds the transaction. So you just super ledger felt like a accurate term because it is a public blockchain. It has all of the key features that you would expect in a third generation, if you like to call it layer one, right? The speed, the cost effectiveness, and interoperability. But on top of it, it has these capabilities to handle regulated assets. So yeah, Superledger is again, it's just a term that really summarized it for us and took it home. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that I love just the supporters that you have. I've just shared here a comment. We have Superledger built on Quorum here by y'all's community. So definitely big support, from your community over to Quorum. What have you guys done to build this following to have this kind of support? Because not every project has that. So yeah, how have you guys stood out, you think, in being able to gather the support?
Absolutely. I think our community is one of the strongest in the game, not the strongest in terms of research, in terms of engagement. They sometimes are even ahead of me when it comes to catching stuff on the GitHub repo, and they
That's
are
awesome.
really
Super
immersed in the
knowledgeable.
project, and they have Yeah, they have their own. For example, Chris from Coreum Concepts, they have their own podcast, and honestly, it's
Oh
super
wow.
important. Like a lot of people overlook this, but as I've been in these institutional facing events, like it actually matters. You know, it actually matters how easy you can communicate to an audience about this complex financial products at times, and it also matters in terms of how many people are going to actually utilize and see value in this, right? The first adopters of tokenized products are going to be Web3 natives, and we're here for it. You know, we want to facilitate for them. It's a different approach. Like for example, Robinhood, what they are doing is they have their Web2 investment account, and they are introducing Web3 assets, digital assets into it. We are going the other way around. We are uh, facilitating for the people that have been trading DeFi for the last 2 3 years, maybe even people that hold XRP and don't understand DeFi, right? But they understand stocks, so maybe
Yeah.
there's something there. Um, but yeah, really really happy with the community we got going on. They're the best. Honestly, they even sourced this some of these opportunities. They bring it up to us. Like honestly, yeah, it's great.
So now that we're, talking about community, if I'm new, I'm listening to this podcast, watching this video podcast for the first time, where do I go to get more access to Quorum to be a part of the community?
That's a good question. And it's worth mentioning that a lot of these community members, they actually run infrastructure on the chain. You know, we have various, family owned or like community owned validators, and they have their own, uh, their kind of like their own ecosystem, I would say, or their own incentives and their own onboarding path into Corium, right? So I would say start there. I would say start asking questions on the Telegram chat, or in one of these other community. Like I wouldn't like to call it separate communities, but just these channels, right? Because that then you're talking to
Yeah.
people instead of um, just doing research by yourself. But at the same time, we do have a very comprehensive docs portal, so it actually has a GPT model that we trained based on anything from the white paper to the actual code, and you can ask them. Even sometimes I use it like if I want to remember or calculate something specific, right? It works really well. So I would say research is always first, and then
Yeah.
when it comes to actually uh, engaging and participating, I would say staking is an obvious second step. Um, Staking, and of course we're looking forward to the launch of this tokenized stocks as well. If you are interested in that, I would say go to solidtext.com, and there's a wait list there to sign up.
Do you guys have a time frame of when that will be coming out live? I know that's something that I saw a lot of people mentioning.
Yeah, we have our eyes set on August for the launch.
Okay. And now that we're talking about, something that's down your roadmap, what are some things that I know that you guys like a utility tool, keep adding different utility to what you're building. What else do you guys have down the pipeline?
I mean, the biggest protocol level update that we have had recently is the Coreum native DEX. Um, this is something we've been working for, you know, I would say a full year, and the aim is to potentially become a viable late DEX for ATSs, like alternative trading systems that are regulated, and they can list securities. Like potentially, you're talking, yeah, and this is very futuristic looking, right? Like
Yeah.
you being able to have a pair of BTC against Tesla, or against other asset, silver against your USD yield bearing stablecoin. The possibilities are endless there, but I think the Corium Dex is one of the few order books in the Cosmos ecosystem, organic order book style dexes. And what we're looking forward right now is we gave a head start to any builder that is on Corium and launching an interface for the DEX. So we launched an API. It's a RESTful API that allows you to pretty much deploy an interface for this order book easily without having to have a lot of blockchain based Rust expertise. I think like I said, I'm not a developer, but I know for a fact that using the API, you can get up and running easily. And I think one of our builders, Hell One, he did a workshop recently where he kind of deployed it in a few days, and he did like a no loss. What was it like a raffle? So like this, he opened a secondary market for those tickets, and all done easily
It's pretty
using the
fun.
core index. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun. Yeah, I could tell the community's different ever since we started shouting them out. I'm seeing lots of comments. Uh, it's you definitely have like a really robust, really fanatically deep, and it's awesome how knowledgeable that there. A lot of them are builders. Like that's kind of what you want. You want the people supporting you building on your L1 to just be big fans of the chain, to truly believe in y'all's vision. So just congrats to you and the team for slowly and steadily building this out into what it is right now.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot ahead. I mean, there's a lot that I wish I could share already, but it all it all comes down to the builders. Like anything we're doing at this point is to facilitate more assets, higher quality assets, higher quality tooling to facilitate applications, user end applications that work, and
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think that's it. IBC, like having that right off the bat, I think is great, and the change that we've seen with the Interchain Foundation um, is definitely more business centric, right? And
yeah.
I think I'm all for it, and it's gonna get the whole ecosystem as a whole into the next level.
Yeah, not to mention that, yeah, like the sentiment had been a little iffy before, maybe last year, but yeah, now that the new leadership has taken over Interchain Labs, we're definitely seeing a different type of sentiment that's out there, and so people are more excited about what's going on. And like for instance, IBC Eureka, that's going to be connecting lots of different chains. I know that a couple of months ago they did like the first transaction between the hub and Ethereum, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe like you guys have also been doing that through IBC with like Ripple, for instance. So it's just cool to see
Yeah,
like this interoperability actually happening, and it's not going to be just with one chain, but all the different chains. And like you mentioned earlier about RWAs, like if they're not cross chain, then kind of like what's the point? But we're seeing slowly this actually flesh out, so super exciting, super
yeah.
exciting. Happy that the sentiment
You
is
know,
better.
you are early in an industry when everyone is trying to make their own standard, right? Like there's no unified protocol for tokenized
Yeah,
assets. Like you've seen different firms from custodians like Fireblocks proposing their own ERC20 standard to institutions as well doing the same thing. So I believe that this approach, which is horizontally scalable with IBC, it's the way to go for this to grow as a aggregated liquidity layer that just has those wall gardens, right? Like open, and it comes to whenever we bring these assets onto Coreum, anyone can come from EVM or Solana or other ecosystems with just an easy asset transfer, or potentially even we're hoping to at some point facilitate smart contracts uh, that operate on other languages like Solidity and whatnot.
yeah. So Fabio, I was trying to keep this under 30 minutes, but just really easy to talk to you. Time has kind of slipped us by. Is there anything that maybe we haven't touched on that you wanted to let the audience know?
No, I really appreciate the time. Just closing remarks, I guess. It's if you
Yeah.
are new to Corium, please do visit Corium.com if you want to get informed. I'm actually calling you right now from Digital Asset Week in New York. We are at the forefront of everything to do with tokenization, onboarding new issuers, overall being part of the conversations that are really moving the needle on what can be done in the US. And we are very, very bullish in specifically pushing this in North America. So yeah, everyone that is watching, thank you for joining us, and happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Fabio. So, from the Cosmos Spaces side, we're really happy that you're willing to come onto the show. I feel like not everyone in the Cosmos ecosystem is really aware of Corium, so we're glad to give you guys a little bit of a stage to kind of talk about what you do. So, really appreciate your time. Yeah, we definitely have to do this again. I feel like we didn't talk about everything we wanted to, but we do respect your time, and so we'll let you get back to it and keep working with those institutions, and keep building use cases for the community.
Absolutely. I think that you nailed it there in terms of the second that more of these the Cosmos chains realize that we're not competing, we're just pushing for the same mission. We're going to move so much faster. And I'm
Yeah.
already seeing that change. So, anyways, thank you for facilitating and hoping to keep in touch.
Of course, of course. And one last shout out. I want to shout out the Omniflix team for powering this live stream. You were able to watch this on YouTube, on X, and on Omniflix TV. So shout out to them for making this possible. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Cheers.